This is the hardest CONCACAF has ever CONCACAF'd if CONCACAF has ever CONCACAF'd. If CONCACAF has only CONCACAF'd one time, this would be it. Because the Women's Gold Cup is going on, and we are actually in the knockouts. If you didn't know, the Women's Gold Cup is kind of like Copa America in reverse, because in the Western Hemisphere on the men's side, Copa America is the bigger tournament and invites, countries from CONCACAF every once in a while. Well, the first ever Women's Gold Cup is going on, and they've invited a bunch of the best countries from South America. The evidence being the final is the United States against Brazil. That's going to happen in a couple of days. But the semifinal between the United States and Canada was quite simply CONCACAF distilled into poetry in motion, because I have never seen a match that should have been played less. And I was watching that MLS match that was played in the snow where Hugo Lloris looked like an animated French snowman. This was, we're give you some time to process this. This was the field before the game of the U.S.-Canada semifinal at the Women's Gold Cup. Right here. Look at these people. Look at these. They're sweeping the field, baby. It looks like a slip and slide. Do you see the amount of water that is coming off those brooms? This looks, one, like an absolutely miserable job. Two, does this actually work? I think it might. Probably take about 2 days to do the entire field, but I think it might actually work. We've got one guy working the line over here, apparently trying to just ruin the fourth official's box on this side. But the intrepid grounds crew spends all of this time before the game trying to essentially mop the field. And as you might be able to guess, it doesn't exactly work. But wherever you're thinking this looks like, it looks way worse. In the 5th minute of the game, we're already treated to amazing scenes like this one. Oh, got it. Oh, excellent clearance. Oh, look at the beautiful football being played. Oh, and she's on the no, puddle. This is worse than any condition. The Gold Cup semifinal with Canada and the United States women's national teams, which are two of the best women's national teams in the world, right? This is the female equivalent, right, of a men's match between like Germany and France in a major tournament being played on a slip and slide, being played on a surface that is objectively worse than any surface I played on in recess growing up. I have never played on a surface this bad, and we didn't even have a grounds crew. We didn't have officials in charge of making decisions around what field was supposed to be played on, and I've never played it. You know, I was trying to get a goal in or two in the World Cup game, you know, in between eating like snackable sandwiches, or what is that? What are those things called? Oh, what are those things called? Lunchables. In between eating my Lunchables, I'm trying to score some goals for New Zealand in World Cup in front of the goal. You know, you got the teams. I don't know if you guys played the game World Cup, but I never had to play in a field this bad. And that field was dirt. There wasn't even a net on the post. It was just the posts because the net fell off and they didn't feel like putting a new one on. But look at this. This looks like a bunch of 10-year-olds trying to kick the ball up the field. Like there's no strategy or ability to pass at all because the ball can't travel more than 2 feet on the pitch. Now, the question is, how is this allowed to happen? Right? When you have what is allegedly a large apparatus that should be able to make the decision that this game should not be played. Now, according to Henry Bushnell, there was a statement, obviously, from a CONCACAF spokesperson realizing fairly immediately that a horrible mistake had been made allowing this match to be played at all. And they essentially did they did it, she did it, he did it, like just 110% deflection, as if CONCACAF has no ability to make a call in this way, which I find hard to believe. It is solely at the discretion of the referee as to whether the field is safe and playable. That is the grandest deferral of all time, especially considering during the match, the referee was coming over to talk to CONCACAF officials, I would assume, about the field. Like the CONCACAF officials were at least involved in conversations that had to do with the state of the match, right? Even if it is the official's final call, you are involved in conversations with the official where you're like, hey, what if we don't? right? But you've already got everybody there. They're playing at the stadium called Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego. I imagine the logistical challenges of planning a tournament like this are always complicated, and the last thing you want to do is have to move a semifinal, because then you might have to reschedule the final, right? Because then the United States and Canada can't play today. They've got to play the next day, and then there's one less day of rest, and then it's more unfair. And so you really, 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 really don't want to reschedule the match. But there's certain points where you're going to have to make a tough decision, and there's no excellent answer. But the best answer, surely, is not playing in a condition where this is possible. Watch this. The United States is in white here. Ball through. She's in on goal. And breaks. Puddle. Nope. I mean, are you kidding? I've never seen anything like this in my life. In a top level professional match, I have never seen anything like this in my life. At any point, at any level. This is the worst field I've ever seen. This is what a match would look like in non-league England when you get those funny posts from non-league Twitter accounts where they go, yep, think the field's unplayable today, and the field is literally a lake because the official showed up at 7 a.m. and obviously called the match off. Somehow this match was allowed to continue. You can see the lake on the field. She's running through a river. That's classified as a waterway by the FDA. I don't know why the Food and Drug Administration would be classifying that as a waterway. Probably should be OSHA instead, but somebody needs to classify that as a waterway and take care of it, because it's certainly not a pitch. And obviously this is affecting the quality of the actual match being played, because this is the first goal the United States scored. This is a back pass that hits a giant puddle, and then the United States scores the opening goal. If I was Canada, I'd be absolutely furious, because how are you supposed to know that there is a giant brake pad on the edge of the 18-yard box that's like, you just have to kind of shovel the ball up the field, never pass it backward, and just run more than the other team. The quality of the match was terrible. The weather was terrible. The match did, however, end up with some drama. It went to extra time. The United States took the lead again, and then a last-second penalty for Canada tied it up before it went all the way to penalties, because, of course, when you play in conditions that are so bad, you must endure them for as long as possible, all the way through the end of a penalty shootout. Everybody looked like they'd been through 5 rounds of mud wrestling by the time this match ended. People were just caked with mud. There was concerns that players were going to end up injured. I'm stunned. Nobody ended up injured. When you look at photos of some of the tackles that occurred in this game, how somebody's knee didn't just decide to invert, how somebody's ACL didn't just give up and go into the pension line, like how we managed to get out of this game without some sort of catastrophe and just a really bad product. But the end point here is that there is no way that this is a reasonable reflection of the quality of these two teams, and that the point of a women's Gold Cup, the point of any soccer football tournament, is to determine who the better team is. And I just don't know how it's possible to actually play the sport you're supposed to play on top of a lake. There's a reason they don't play the World Cup at the bottom of the ocean. There's a reason that the Caribbean Sea has never hosted Copa America. That's because you're supposed to play it on a field of grass where the sport can be played, and it can be determined whether you're Lionel Messi or Aquaman. And that was not determinable between the United States and Canada in the women's world gold, whatever, the Gold Cup, the CONCACAF Gold Cup. And that is a shame. The United States is advanced. I'm obviously happy about that as a giant United States homer, but there's no way this is fair. If I was Canadian, I'd be furious. If the US had lost, I'd be furious. And you need to actually, in certain instances, make the brutal call so that the actual sport can be played. Let's look at more clips. Dude, did you just see that? Look at this pass right here. Dude, what? There's no way this game was even real.